Hey, Steve Stanek here of the Dusty Keratometer. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my lensometer. It's an amusing story. Stay tuned. So I retired from optometry in 2010, and I decided I wanted to have a lensometer. So I bought this Model 70 Reichert. And I remember in optometry school, I was a first-year student. I was attending the Student Optometric Service to Haiti workshops. And it was kind of neat because we learned how to do lensometry before our classmates. And I remember a kid that was a year or two ahead of me. He pointed to a Reichert, a Model 70 lensometer, and he said, of all the lensometers here in the methods lab, this is the one I think is the most accurate. And so I tried different lensometers in the class, and I think I figured out, I came to the same conclusion myself. So I bought this Model 70, it's actually a Reichert, used in 2012. I bought it from a used equipment company. I'm not going to mention their name. They're in California. When I received it, I plugged it in, turned it on. It worked. The knobs turned. The Myers were there. So I had no call to use it, so I put it in my closet. One thing I found that disappointed me a little bit was there was about a quarter diopter of play in the power wheel. And I was a little concerned because it said that this is refurbished, spent $1,350 on it. And I was concerned that it might be a problem inside the unit. But like I said, I put it in my closet. So a few months ago, my wife was having trouble with her glasses adjusting. And so I said, well, give me the prescription and let me read them and see if the optical shop made them correctly. So the first thing I did, and I talked about Allen wrenches before, was I focused this ridicule to my eye, and as you all know, you're supposed to turn it counterclockwise, and then you slowly turn it clockwise, and you look at the prism demarcations, not the Myers. And when they first come in focus, you stop, and that way you've controlled for your accommodation. And then I zeroed the power wheel, and it didn't quite come to zero for my eye. So I took my Allen wrenches, I backed off the set screws that hold this knob on, and I put it right at zero. And fortunately, the play went away. So what that tells us is those set screws were just loose. So I was happy about that. So I went ahead, I read my wife's glasses, and the axis of her cylinder was 90 degrees off. So I told her, I said, look, the optical shop messed up, and let's go talk to them. And so she said, okay, fine, I'm going to change clothes. So she literally went to change clothes. We were going to go yell at the optical shop. And fortunately, I said to her, could I read your old glasses? So I put them in here. Same thing, 90 degrees off. So I realized what happened was this axis wheel was on here 90 degrees off. So it was a pretty simple matter. All again I had to do was loosen the two screws and set it up, hit the right axis, and then everything's good. So it just goes to show you can't assume anything. And Dr. Hooten, who taught me optics in the early 80s, he said, verify everything. And I think he would have been proud of me on this one, because I really didn't want to ship this all the way back to California to have them put the axis wheel on correctly. So I was able to do it myself. Now, to make sure it was at 180, the proper orientation, what I did was I used the same principle as when you want to make sure a level is working right. You check it one way and you turn it around and check it the other way and see if it's still level. What I did was I put a cylinder lens in the trowel frame, and say I put it at 85, then I very carefully turned it around, checked it again the other way, it should be 95. And after a little bit of monkeying around with it, I got it right. So I'll tell you one story that Dr. Hooten wouldn't have been so proud of me. I got a pair of glasses when I was at Brooks Air Force Base. I went to a local shop, and when I put them on for the first time, they felt kind of weird. But I just said to myself, well, you've just got to adapt. So I wore them for like a month or two. And then one day I got in my car to drive somewhere at lunchtime. I put on my sunglasses, and my eyes just felt better. So I thought, there's got to be something wrong with these glasses. So I took them in and checked them, and the PD was 10 millimeters off. My PD is 66, and they made them at 56. So I took them back to the optical, and they took care of that. But unfortunately, I'm a high myope, so that's why I bought this. I can check my prescription and my wife's. And the Model 70, the opticians love it because, you know, they mark up their lenses when they fabricate. And this thing is so heavy and so well made, it's going to last forever. It's built like a tank and no longer being made. So the one disadvantage is you can't incline it, which is handy when you want to check a RGP lens. You'd have to hold it on here. You'd have to be careful not to induce any false cylinder. Dr. Hooten would check prescriptions that came back to his office very, very carefully. And if anything was the slightest bit off, not to ANSI standards, he would send it back. In fact, he insisted that the glasses came to him from the lab bench aligned. If one temple was off the table, he would actually send them back to the lab for that. Now, you could argue that's a little bit picky, but he did have a very good point. He said that, word gets out among the opticians what an optometrist is going to accept. And, like you could just imagine two opticians working, and a job might come out off a little bit, and one guy might say to the other guy, what do you think? And the other guy might say, well, who's it going to? It's going to Dr. Jones. Oh yeah, Dr. Jones, he'll never catch that. He doesn't even know what a lensometer is. So Dr. Hooten was right about that. Everything I'm telling you in these videos is stuff I've learned after optometry school. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by telling you what they teach in optometry school. The optometry schools do a great job of teaching students. I know I've worked with students from almost every school, and they do great. But once I got in practice, particularly my first year in practice, I learned a lot on my own from just simple trial and error. For example, one of the things at PCO, they beat it into us to push plus or not to over minus. And when you're in school, you go to your checkout doctor, and let's say you have a patient that's wearing -3, and you refract them and you find they need -2, at PCO, they would basically scream at us that we had to prescribe the -2. And of course I did that. But once I got to Fort Carson and I was seeing my own patients, I did that at first, and every single patient came back. And they would say things like, I can't see with these glasses at night. I can't drive at night. Night myopia, anywhere from half a diopter to 3/4, more minus. Or they would just say the distance is blurry with these new glasses you gave me. So I came up with what I call Steve's rule, and that was I would only give the patient half. So if I had the patient wearing -3 and I find -2, I would prescribe -250. And they stopped coming back. It was like magic. And I wonder, because in optometry school, in my third year, we saw patients 1 day a week. So if people came back with problems with their glasses, they usually didn't see me again. Now my fourth year at PCO, I was seeing patients 5 days a week in module 2. But I don't remember people coming back and seeing me for that particular problem. But I'll bet you a lot of them did. So talk to your professors about that. But I think it's important not to prescribe too big a change in the glasses. People have a lot of trouble adjusting. My wife is a prime example. I don't dare change anything more than a quarter for my wife because she is so sensitive. Funny story, I prescribed for her first progressive. This was before we were married. And I told her, I said, now, these can take up to 2 weeks for you to really feel comfortable with. And she said she got the new progressives and she put them on and they didn't feel right. But she said, he told me, give it 2 weeks. She kept wearing them. She said the 14th day, she put those glasses on and they felt comfortable. so I don't know if it was the power of suggestion, but anyway, it gives you an idea. Next week, I'm hoping to do my first interview with a great optometrist. I think you'll be pleased. I'm going to have to get it edited. It may be a while before I get it posted on YouTube, but I think you'll look forward to that. Anyway, if you're in optometry school or you've been practicing a while, doesn't matter. We're all optometrists. We're all in this together. Let's try to help each other out. See you next time.